And welcome, everyone, to Full Press Hockey Weekly. We are live. It is Tuesday, July 12th, 2022. And we are at this point in time, when we are airing the show for the first time at 8 o'clock, we are 16 hours away from the start of NHL Free Agency. Mike Straw here with you alongside, as always, Chris Wassel. Jim is off tonight. He's out playing hockey, having some fun tonight. But, Chris, before we get into everything, because I think we have some things to talk about. Before we get into that, how are you on this beautiful summer day? It might not be beautiful there in Jersey, but, it's beautiful here. You're completely quiet. There's no way your mic's still muted. Let's try now. You weren't muted on mine. Let's see. There we go. I hear you. Nope. You're gone again. It's just picking up a fan in the background. We'll get that sorted out. In the meantime, while we get that taken care of, quick program reminder. Tomorrow, there's a good chance we will be on the air for some day one free agency coverage. We're going to figure that out. We're also going to bring you full coverage at fullpresshockey.com. You can check now. Jim, our co-host Jim Behringer, has his list of the top 10 NHL free agents available. It's a pretty obvious list. Some names already off of his list, but you can keep tabs on that. Chris, do we have you finally? Nope, we do not. Now let's try this. Maybe now. Still not. All we're picking up is background noise. Sounds like a fan. So we're going to try and get that sorted out. But NHL draft, before we get into anything here, I love technical difficulties live and on the air. But before we get into that, NHL free agency and previewing that madness, NHL draft came and went. It was pretty chaotic at the start. And then the first round on Thursday kind of slowed down. I don't know how I felt about it being on Thursday. It kind of threw me off because having rounds 2 through 7 through Monday or Friday all day kind of felt a bit strange. But it was nice. Got me through the workday pretty nice. But Shane Wright falling 4th to Seattle, my thought when he fell was immediately, there's no way in my mind that the worst GM and worst coach in all of hockey in Seattle could screw that up. And they didn't. So that made me really happy knowing that they didn't screw that up. Nothing changed. They took the guy, and him and Beniers in the future should do well, hopefully with a better coach actually utilizing his players properly instead of Dave Haxtell. And we'll have Chris up here about his thoughts on the Devils not taking Wright when he was sitting there when he comes back and we get his situation sorted out. But it's not surprising to me. I don't want to say it's surprising that Slafkovsky went to Montreal number 1. Now, when people look at the stats, they'll see 5 goals, 5 assists in 31 games in Finland. But it's not exactly... That doesn't tell the whole story of the type of player he is. He can produce. He will produce. Well, the hope is he'll produce. I can't say he will because we all thought Nail Yakupov back in 2012 was going to be this all-world stud, and that just wasn't the case at that point. But we are seeing Slafkovsky. They get the winger. They must really trust Suzuki. They're saying, this Suzuki, this is your team. there's a lot of things going on with the Canadians that I'm interested to see. Marty St. Louis is putting, it seems, in his first draft, is going to put his feelings or his fingerprints all over things, and we'll see what happens. Not having him in the Atlantic, dealing with him in Montreal is good for the teams in the Atlantic. And we'll see. Do we have Chris? Is he here working?
I hope so.
There we go. We got him. It's robotic, though, a little bit. We'll see if this goes. Chris, what was your thought on, we're talking NHL draft first. What was your immediate thought on Shane Wright, not only not going first, but falling all the way to fourth?
I wasn't that. Once we had the Slovakian Express, there was if you could sit there and take a shot on Nemec at number around plus 300. It wasn't 450 like I took a trigger at it. Look, the Devils need defense. Anybody that gets us away is a top pairing defenseman faster. So, fortunate things were defensive.
Yeah,
New Jersey. I some other guys get mad that but you gotta have some.
You're breaking up a bit there again. Live online radio, it's always fun. I think where I was kind of surprised is I really figured Wright might have went to Arizona. He could have played it. He could have went to college and played in the NHL at the same time, but instead it's Logan Cooley getting to go to college. And I get it. There's a lot of people who think that Cooley has a better offensive upside than Shane Wright did. I don't know, but again, having Wright and Beniers in the future in Seattle should do wonders for that organization, provided they utilize him. They utilize them properly, and that's really what you're banking on at this point, is having him utilized properly and hopefully, because we fully expect, in my mind, I fully expect Wright to be on the NHL opening day roster. If he's not, then there's something going on. But again, I'll say it one last time, and that'll be my last jab for the show. They have the worst coach in hockey, and the worst GM in hockey. So
in that sense, did see into the right things sort of in the NHL? The question that has to be asked,
I don't know.
Seattle trip into this.
100% they did. I'm interested to see what Seattle does, and we'll talk about free agency in a minute. I'm interested to see what they do tomorrow, because I fully expect Wright to be on that opening night lineup, and they got to make up for what they didn't do in year one with the expansion, because it was an absolute mess. Was there any major, and there wasn't a lot of intrigue around the draft, not as many trades as we expected, we had the DeBrincat. We had Chicago. We'll talk specifically about Chicago in a minute. So we're going to skip over the Chicago trades and their moves. Was there anything else from the NHL draft that kind of stood out and surprised you?
I think it was the draft itself, qualified, something that were not made more than the actual draft itself. I'm not going to lie. That 2-hour window after the draft had more draft itself in a lot of aside from not having a home right, it's horrible. Stromes have no
the Stromes have no homes, but I have a feeling all three will by the end of the week. Speaking of
crazy how that
for me, I think it was a case of, we didn't see the big splash deal that I think a lot of us were expecting to see. Personally here, after the Matt Murray to Buffalo trade fell through because Murray used his no move, which, man, good for that one, I guess, because it turned out proper. It turned out to be what was needed to get DeBrincat. But Buffalo possibly flipping 16 or 15, 16 for the 16th pick to the 7th just to take Matt Murray would have been nice. I mean, but it is what it is. It happened. Buffalo using all 3 picks kind of surprised me. Though I like the picks they made, of course. I thought they were really nice. The pick that I really think is gonna go down as one of the better picks of the draft, or at least of the first round. I think Nashville taking Joakim Kemmel. I just really like. Everybody's gonna say, well, he's small because he's under 6 feet and he's only 170 pounds, and he's not that big of a guy. Like last season, he put up 22 points or 23 points in 39 games, but he has this elite goal scoring potential, like a pure goal scoring player. He reminds me, to be real, he reminds me a lot of a Philip Forsberg, who we'll talk about in a minute too, as far as free agency and that move that was needed. But he reminds me so much the way he plays of Philip Forsberg. And then they go and re-sign Philip Forsberg after drafting a guy who plays like Philip. So it was just, to me, he's going to be one of the names you remember from this draft in the coming years. Other than that, I mean, it was your typical run-of-the-mill draft. Nothing major stood out. I mean, other than I get it was the first in-person draft in 3 years, but holy hell, the lip service to Montreal. Everybody terribly trying to speak French. Like, shut up. Stop. It was so cringy. You know what? They could have went up there for 3 hours and had the voice actor from Dexter's Laboratory going omelette du fromage, and it would have been a million times better than what we got Thursday night with all the hemming and hawing. And thank you to the great city of Montreal and the great fans. The fans of Montreal suck. They're jackasses. Okay. Let's be real.
Common lifelong tip when and I advocate this area, avoid getting COVID, to La Sheraton in downtown Montreal and look at you and then just die. That's basically the best for after all this. Reasonably priced, and I mean, look, might go spend a few $100s in it, but on, in that sense, people. Jesus Christmas.
All right, we're gonna have to move now from draft very quickly because of everything just being so condensed right now.
Yep.
But the news that dropped right as we went on the air, and it was the news we all expected, despite being offered 8 years, $10.5 million per from Calgary. Johnny Gaudreau is testing the open market, and I know this is what I hope happens. I hope him and Philly have a contract and agreement, right? This is what I hope. Hear me out. But Philly can't find a partner to help him afford it, and it blows up in their face, and then he signs elsewhere. Because Chuck Fletcher is number 2 on the worst GMs in the league.
Already there, to be honest.
They can't
stalling.
Yeah, they can't find anybody to take that JVR contract at all. Like, because if they're going to be able to afford Gaudreau, they have to get somebody to take all of that contract. And in order to do that, they're going to have to give up a first-round pick. Otherwise, if I'm a GM, I'm saying, nah, we're good. Because it stops them from getting the biggest name on the market.
No, I mean, look,
because Going into tomorrow, they have $3.5 million cap space. They can't just to sign Gaudreau and afford that cap space and keep without signing any of your RFAs or pending UFAs or anything like that. They have to get rid of that Van Riemsdyk contract in full.
Away, there's been a ruling on the Fedotov. So that's something that at least somewhat resolved by now. One goalie, NHL goalie. Martin Jones is a UFA. So there is this possibility. They also have to find a goal in all this mess. Look, rough week for Philly.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. Again,
I thought that was bad.
What I think too about this whole situation with Philly and a potential Gaudreau thing, I think Gaudreau and Tortorella are going to butt heads more than any player that Tortorella has ever had. Because we heard Tortorella on ESPN all year bitching and whining about players being too skilled and too this and that. And what do you think Gaudreau's going to come in and do? Like, that's just what's going to happen. It's not going to, it's, if they find a way to get Gaudreau to sign, it deserves every blow up mess that it will get.
Because really, I hate to say this at this point.
You're cutting in and out pretty bad. So you hate to say something, but we didn't hear a word what you hate to say.
The question, Johnny Hockey play with, or who should we play with? Who do you on that roster?
No, you got a winger coming in. You put him. Probably you got Kevin Hayes as your number one. I mean, at the end of the day, your top line is Hayes, Atkinson, and Gaudreau in Philly if you get Gaudreau. Atkinson and Gaudreau, love it. Love the two of them. I love Cam Atkinson. Who the hell is getting him the puck? Kevin Hayes, I like him as a player. He is not a number one center.
Center with those two guys.
So it's going to be tough. Like, what they're going to do. Like, because then they got to sign Owen Tippett. They're going to have to find a way to sign Owen Tippett, who is RFA'd. I mean, this just not. It's a very funny situation for the Flyers, and I don't envy it, and I'm okay with it. Other names that are on the list. We're going to talk here. Jim's at fullpresshockey.com, Jim Behringer's list. We talked Gaudreau. Actually, before we get into that, Chicago. DeBrincat, gone. Doc, gone. Kane, all but gone. Strome, gone. Taves, they want gone. What can Chicago... There was that era in the 90s of Chicago Blackhawks hockey, the late 90s, early 2000s, where they didn't even air home games because attendance was so bad. Are we looking at that type of era again in Chicago with the Blackhawks after such a run of success and sellout after sellout after sellout? Are we looking at this type of like really piss poor? Granted, they had great players like Tony Amonte and Eric Daze. They just had nothing around them. Are we looking back? Are we set to repeat history here with Chicago where no one gives a shit about that team in that city again?
It might be worse. Worse. Let's sink in. I mean, look, we knew him. That was,
and I get
it. You know what's weird, Mike? Accountable for this because he can do what has a carte blanche with ownership, whatever he has to do to this roster and make them this roster, whether Chicago likes this or not. So full steam ahead, and it makes two.
Yeah, and I mean, I get the deal with Connor Bedard coming out next year, but at the end of the day, you are doing this for a chance, and a chance that has been reduced drastically in the past few years, as far as the top odds getting it. And I mean, it's hard to not see Chicago being in that bottom three at the end of the year, but this, I don't think we're, even with the top pick, this is going to be a very, very bad time. They got nothing for DeBrincat. The one guy with a no move, the biggest piece with no movement, no trade, anything like that, they could, and they got next to, like, they still, sure, they get the 7th overall pick with it, but they got next to nothing for it. Three draft picks, 2 draft picks this year and a third next year. Are you kidding me? Or a third in 2024. Sorry, not even next year. That's all they got for DeBrincat.
Sorry.
Why? That's all they got. And how do you go into that if you're Chicago and go and feel that you came out on top? Because to be fair, all due respect, because he might turn out to be a really fine player, Krasinski ain't that, man. He's not that guy, in my opinion.
No,
he might be.
He was a reach.
They're banking on him being the next Cale Makar. Let's be real. That's what they're hoping for. That's the only way they can justify that trade, is that he turns in to, at minimum, Cale Makar. But do you realize what I'm saying? He has to be at minimum Norris Trophy.
And
best defenseman in hockey.
By the way,
best peer skater skating defenseman in hockey.
Him at the so that he develops into the, see that in Chicago last I checked. I'm exactly a guy you want mentoring. Oh wait, that a couple of years.
Yeah, it's not a good look for the Blackhawks whatsoever. Things are only going to get worse. Sorry, Chicago fans, but not sorry. You know, I really don't feel bad about what's going to happen in Chicago because of what has happened in Chicago with that organization. I don't feel bad. And now Scotty Bowman's going to be out or leaving. Is gone
already.
Which jumped that. He hopped on the lifeboat, left the Titanic that's sinking. It's a mess of an organization, and it's only going to get messier, and we'll be along for the ride to cover it here at Full Press Hockey. Before we continue on to the rest of the free agents, quick note, we have launched officially fullpressbets.com. We are in the sport. It's been something a lot of us love. Chris, for various other outlets, is a sports betting writer. And now I've expanded my role after some issues at a former outlet. I've expanded my role, talked to our boss Ian, expanded my role at Full Press to jump on Full Press Bets as well. You'll be able to start finding my work weekly there and daily at Full Press Bets on social media. You can find us at Full Press Bets on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and soon TikTok. And I'll be posting my best bets of the day. Of course, today, Tuesday's best bets. 2 of the games are in rain delay and may not even start today. So that's a great start. 2 of them just completely washed out. The world will never know. But you can check that out again. Fullpressbets.com, twitter.com/fullpressbets. Okay. Next on the free agent list was Philip Forsberg, who re-signed where we all, like, as the season went on and as things got, my thought was he was going to stay. Braden knows what's up. Yes, it will. it felt like he was going to stay, and he is going to stay. And I'm so happy for Nashville to have their star player stay. And then they go and pull in Ryan McDonough, who isn't the Ryan McDonough from his early years. We all know that. But he still brings, for whatever it's worth, he still brings that Stanley Cup pedigree. He still brings that leadership to a back end. Granted, they still got Roman Josi. Excuse me. And now, hopefully next year with a fully healthy UC Saros the whole way, Nashville could be in a good shape depending on what they do. And I fully expect them to go out and try and make one move. They have the space. They have, going into tomorrow, just under 10 mil in space. They have a couple RFAs. Excuse me. They got a couple RFAs. They don't really have much in the way of UFAs to worry about. And they could use, they have Duchesne, they have Johansson, they got Granlund, but they could use another winger. Like another winger would really help. And potential bottom pairing defenseman they could use. So I fully expect them to go out. Do you think Forsberg staying in Nashville was the right move? Obviously for Nashville, it was the right move, but do you think that was the right decision for what Philip Forsberg is as a player and as far as what his role could have been elsewhere?
I found a better fit elsewhere. I mean, there were a few teams that they would have paid him $9, probably. And a half he got with Nashville. Remember, Nashville tax laws are decently favorable. Look, it's not a secret. He likes Duchesne. There's a chemistry there. Click. I don't think that's gonna go. That's gonna go.
But you're not bringing up the biggest joy of him staying.
Oh, you know it's coming.
Taco Tuesday is here to stay.
You have no idea how happy I am. There is going to be, obviously, so true. This is a kind of a solid jaunt through the. There is a slight possibility that the AP in Nashville next summer. I'm not saying we're trying with Forsberg as a segment, but we may try to get Tacos as a segment.
I think that'd be an amazing segment. And it'll be fun. And as far as in my targets for Nashville, like I could see them, to be honest, making a run at seeing if they can bring in a John Klingberg. He might cost a little bit more than what I think they're willing to spend, but I think they'll talk. I do think a conversation will be had with Klingberg to kind of solidify that back end of it. Forward wise, I don't really know what's there as a fit from maybe a Max Domi, maybe a Nino Niederreiter. Like it's kind of, they don't need a top line guy. They are looking for depth. And that's kind of where my mind goes. Is it a Domi? Is it a Niederreiter?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe they can get someone.
Maybe even. Sonny Milano, maybe.
Milano's a name, though I am hearing that Buffalo is going to be big. Like he's one name I fully expect. If Buffalo's going to make one signing tomorrow, it's hard to not see Milano being that with his connections to the Buffalo area and the Hockey Academy, his connections to Don Granato specifically, and what Buffalo's looking for in the forward market. So Milano's a guy where when he wasn't qualified by Anaheim, everybody in this area went. I mean, that's a good, like a good player match for a coaching staff with Granato. And that's the type of players that Granato bring in. And there's a lot of talk that PK Subban could be, because Buffalo did have interest in Letang, but he obviously re-signed in Pittsburgh. Speaking of another Pittsburgh guy, I still feel at the end of the day, Malkin stays and they find a way to get it done and he stays in Pittsburgh.
It's possible.
To me, there's two options for Malkin. Pittsburgh, Detroit. Everybody's thinking because of the Russian connection, he'd go to Washington. I don't see how they make it work. If there's one team that can lure him away, I think it'd be Detroit, because Stevie Y is a wizard. And selling him, I think playing, I don't know. I just think it could be an easy sell to have, with all that cap space, to come in and play with Jakub Vrana or a Tyler Bertuzzi if they get I think that's a big one. You can get him to come in and play with the Tyler Bertuzzi, and I think that could be a good 1-2 punch right there. I mean, you also have Dylan Larkin, and maybe you don't even put Malkin at center at all, and you have him play on a wing with Larkin to start the season. See how it goes. I think there could be a fit there. I don't know. When I look at Malkin, he just looks like a Red Wing. If there's not a Penguin, if he's not in a Penguins uniform, he looks like he belongs in a Red Wings uniform. He looks like he's who you'd expect if he played in the late 90s. He'd be playing right alongside like Holmstrom and Fedorov and Maltby and Yzerman and shit. Like, he looks like he just would have fit in that.
Through all the rumors and understand some we kind of snuff out as horribly bad. There was a growing sense getting into that level of more than just on the radar. Unfortunately, who you're a fan of, folks seem to be agree that if it's not Pittsburgh, Detroit, Washington's there. Always going to be there.
I just don't.
Because
I just don't see how they make it work cap wise. They got 5 roster spots they have to fill.
Washington did walk away because they have to fill goaltending a bit since they walked.
I mean, we know Kemper's got to be the guy.
Kemper's to figure out how much money is left. They can do both Kemper and Malkin with 2 other moves.
Yeah, they got to figure it out. It'll be Washington. I don't envy that position because they do have to figure out goaltending. McClellan's got work. Ilya Samsonov going to the market. I think I may have a higher opinion on him than it probably should. But I think he could be a legitimate number 1 goalie for a playoff team. Like, I just have that feeling of his abilities. And if I'm Toronto and you're not re-signing Campbell, like, I think Samsonov's your guy. Like, it doesn't seem that way but I don't know. Like, he's just a guy. Like, if I'm any team that needs a goalie, if I'm Edmonton, it does look, Braden Holchek brings it up, Campbell to Edmonton, because they're going to drastically overpay and watch that backfire. But if you're Toronto, you cannot go into the year, because there's talks of them possibly bringing back Reimer. You can't go into the year if they did that and bring in Reimer and Murray as your top goaltending and think you could sell to a fan base, we're getting out of the first round this year. You can't do that. You are going, to me, like, I don't know. Samsonov is a goaltender that, man, I really, really think he's going to get a chance. His contract, because of him not being qualified, I don't think his contract's going to be all that high. But to me, he's the top goal. He's 25. And his numbers last year weren't the best. He did have over a 3 goals against, but I also think Washington dealt with a lot of injuries last year and their defense wasn't that good. It wasn't that good at all.
Defense wise, they were one of
So, yeah, I'm interested what happens there. Maybe Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he's the number one goalie, and everybody's going to pay attention too much to Kemper and Campbell, and whoever gets Samsonov is going to be the winner in that goalie market. But the goalie market is thinning, and if you're a team that needs a goalie like a Toronto, like a Buffalo, like a Washington, but like a Toronto, like a Buffalo, like Dallas is okay with Ottinger. We don't know what's going on in Carolina. Carolina, I think, is a team that really has to. They have to figure out what's going on with Freddie Anderson.
Remember too, my whole market, he may have to retire.
Yeah.
Sad situation to see. I chronic of an injury first described, and then like, oh wow, this is like something, Tyler Sagan's and stuff's detached from others. Okay, it's one thing when you're a goaltender, that's a huge,
that's your livelihood.
Same thing like we were saying with Washington when we're territory that TRR, which helps Washington, but man, be anywhere near somehow in the situations they're in, like is, etc. It is no other slicing.
No, and there is always there's this one little elephant in the room, dark horse. I don't even know what the term. There's always the situation with John Gibson. What team will miss out on goaltending in the free agency? And we lost Chris there. What team is going to miss out on goaltending and go to Anaheim and give Anaheim what they want for John Gibson? Because John Gibson is he's requested a trade. So we're going to see what happens on that front. And maybe that's a route a team that needs a goaltender takes. Maybe that's a route a Toronto ultimately looks, because Kyle Dubas has to do something. They got to sell. Mic'd up Dylan. Where does Arizona go from here in terms of going after players with the current situation in terms of the state of the arena and team? Well, if there's any player that's missed out on the college experience and wants it, Arizona State University is for you. This is a good question. They have a lot of cap space. They have their top salary is Clayton Keller. The big thing with Arizona is what happens with Jacob Chikrin. He doesn't want to sit through another rebuild. My thought is, when did the first one end? It's not another rebuild if it never stopped. But they got to figure out what they're going to do with Chikrin. I don't think that's a move that happens until we get into the season, to be honest, unless Arizona's blown away by something. But I do see Arizona, they're going to accumulate a contract from someone. We know that's what they like to do. But they have to get a backup goaltender. They need to get scoring. I fully expect, and they got to re-sign Lawson Krause. Guys like Galchenyuk, Louis Eriksson, Jay Beagle, Kessel, they're not going to be back. Another Antoine Roussel, not going to be back. Logan Cooley, I fully expect to be playing on this team. To me, other than Shane Wright, he was like the top, like ready to go, jump right in. I don't know. Arizona, I think, is going to be just another year of what the hell are they doing? Which I don't think is a really good route to take, but there could be a player or two. Like if I'm looking at the forwards, like if I'm looking at realistic forwards, does Arizona entice a guy like a Vinny Trocheck or a Riley Smith? Like those are a couple names. None of the big available free agents are going to sign there, but there is a lot of really good mid-6 players. They'll be able to have Dylan. They'll be able to have their they'll be able to have their logo at center ice. Now it'll just they were able to work out a deal. They were able to have their logo at center ice. It'll just share the logo with Arizona State, so it'll be a split logo thing.
It's like a timeshare.
Yeah, exactly. I love these. Keep the questions coming in. This makes the show a lot of fun. Braden wants to know, where do you guys see some of the centers going? Kadri, Trocheck, Giroux, Strome. Giroux, I think, ends up in Ottawa. All signs point to it. Ottawa is going to be a much better team this year. They're going to be the team I think makes the really, that goes from what the hell to playoffs. And I think Brady Tkachuk's right there.
Lots of fun.
Yeah, they're going to be a fun team to watch, and they're doing it in the better uniforms, finally. Ryan Strome, that's a tough one for me, because up until today, my mind kept saying he'd find a way to stay in New York. But if Trocheck is gone, I think Strome goes to Carolina, and Trocheck probably isn't going to Carolina. Trocheck is a name I could see Arizona taking a flyer on. I could also see a team like the Kings could take a flyer on a guy like Trocheck. Montreal could take a flyer on a guy like Trocheck. I don't know. That I'm more iffy. Kadri is the tough one for me. I don't know. Because of everything has gone up, the rumors of what he's going to command. It went from maybe $6 million to now 8, 10. He's not getting 10 million.
Yeah, there's a projection from talking to he from Evolving Wild, came up with a 8.4 or 8.5, and it wasn't like a 6 or 7. It was like a 4 to 5 year deal. People have to keep it money 7.28. This is early 30s. He wants one more kick at the Caps after this deal.
Yeah,
God knows anybody. He's get about a mid deal, about a 4, and he's gone on the record to everybody. So as well, this isn't going to be day one, and processes a lot of paperwork quickly. But,
here's a place in my mind I could see possibly working for a Nazem Kadri. Now, yeah, he's a center. They don't necessarily need centers. But if they can make it work cap-wise, there's 2 teams that I think Kadri could fit in with really, really well. I think he could fit in, and I know they got Couture and they just re-signed Hurdle, but I do think they can find a way and he can fit in, move Couture to wing, and you can, or whatever, because Kadri can play the wing as well. He did it in Toronto from time to time. And I think San Jose would be a nice fit, but they need to get rid of that Burns contract in order to do it.
Oof.
That is the catalyst. I don't know if San Jose can do it. If I could not give a damn about the money and just put him where I think he could fit really well, I would love to see him in San Jose. Another team I could see working out in, solely because I kind of would like to see how they play together. I would really like to see him in Columbus. You get Laine under a contract. I know there's talks he doesn't want to be there, or he wants to go out west. He's going to sign a contract. They're going to get him under a deal or whatever happened. But Laine and Kadri as your top line, I think, or your top center wing pairing, I think that gets Columbus to be competitive again and fighting for a playoff spot. Those Columbus and San Jose, if I could pick teams and not have to worry about how it gets done, it just gets done. Those are 2 teams I think he could fit in really well. I don't think he ends up going to any of those teams because I think he goes again, like you said, he goes to a team I think that has a better chance to win. Now, I just don't know what team that could be that could afford him that has a chance to win right now. Because if they're a cup contending team, they have their centers.
Teams that have to do quite a bit of salary to make things work, be something that happens overnight. There's that. I mean, Detroit's radar. I mean, New Jersey is a long shot. The Rangers. I mean, there's quite at least knocked on the door as far as Kadri's agent. Again, lots to, and that has to be kept in mind.
Big time. Big time. So there's also another name, mic'd up Dylan before we get into last free agency. Or we get back to free agency. What do you think more likely happening this year from the two most recent expansion teams? Seattle improvement or Vegas decline? Vegas decline, because as long as Hackstall's head coach, there will not be any improvement because he's rock garbage. I said I was done, but I'm not.
Mike is never, and it's better that way forever.
I know. It's not even like I just randomly picked and chose. Like, I don't like that. No, ever since they announced his hiring, I'm like, you're stupid. What are you doing?
What is the possibility that both actually
decline?
It could happen.
It could. I don't think so, solely because I don't know. They got a coach. They got a much better coach in Vegas, and they got a coach that'll use his players and put them in the right spots. I mean, DeBoer was trash, and he still is.
And Vegas is a situation early. Are they really?
Who knows? Who? It'll be interesting. Big thing in Vegas is can they stay healthy?
It's going to be a big role, so you can't. To anybody that asks, have a better idea of what there's really honest answer. I just this could be an issue again. Do they improve? I mean, just decline early the start.
So as we start to wrap up here, one name that I think is going under the radar being talked about, and I think because everybody just assumes it's a dead given that he's going to be back where he's been, Andre Palat. Tampa's got to do something to get it done, to get the space. But I think he ends up moving on. And this is another situation. If the one team where I think he moves on to, and I think he could thrive in, and I think would really help them kind of take that next step, is Carolina. I think he would fit in. I think he'd play really well there. I think it would be I think Rod Brindamore would be amazing on how to use him. He wouldn't really move. He'd be in the same kind of role he was in Tampa. And that would benefit Carolina greatly, because if there's anything we saw in the playoffs, they didn't have that guy to really help produce depth-wise, and Palat could be that guy. And I don't know. Do you think he stays in Tampa, or do you think he finds another home?
Fourth on this, and there you look at the rumors that are out there. There's no this was something that was, let's put it this way. Tampa Bay was like maybe locked as the playoffs were ending. Now, I mean, we're getting close to even yanking itself back with some line.
Yeah, I mean, they have no.
Could he get sense? Carolina make again, same. about the same. He'd be allowed to kind of Carolina be able to overpay. Maybe. Braden brings
Detroit could be a good
on their radar. I mean,
Detroit could be a good spot for him.
They have both a lot. It wasn't a secret. The last few days. Again, be a lot of to see who's actually available, but
I'm really interested to see what I'm interested to see what happens as we get closer, as late last minute signings. Detroit, I think Palat could snag in. I think the Islanders could be a landing place for Palat. I also could see San Jose being a good spot because he does play that wing, and they could put him with Hurdle. Or even Couture. Like there's a lot of spots for Palat, but I haven't given it enough thought because up until the last couple days, I assumed he'd stay. But the closer we get without a deal, the more I'm inclined to believe he won't. And that's how I kind of felt with Andrew Kopp. I thought the Rangers were going to get something done with Kopp.
Thought it was
not happening. Kopp to me would be a great fit in Carolina, a great fit with the Islanders. I want your opinion on this too. I could even see Kopp being a solid fit with the Devils.
That's not far off. I mean,
I just didn't. Again, he's another player I didn't think would get there.
Notice the teams that were meant. Some things could take time because the fall inevitably have places to go. Obviously, the Rangers are looking slightly cheaper options. Stastny comes to mind. Potentially a 1-year deal. Brian and hope that whatever finds have a consistent spot. Again, our goal destroys middle six, but it is Achilles heel since he's kills everything else well. So it'll an adjustment.
So as we wrap up, we'll do. I'm just going to give a couple names, and just rapid fire. We're going to go through 5 names, and just give me first thought where you think they sign. First, excuse me. First name, Evander Kane.
I still, man, this.
People out there assume he's going to get a $40 million deal. No, if someone pays him over $6 a year, or even that much, no.
Yeah, Kane. It's like, does he have a team line to go to?
I don't know. They gave him permission to talk with other teams, but it's tough.
That's like the unknown team.
Yeah. But if you were to pick one team, just one random team,
Seattle. I don't know why. It's like this weird feeling like out of these, they have a slot for winger.
And they could do something to try and sell the whole, look, we're trying to get better this year thing.
Not to mention, try more.
I don't know. They could have had Tarasenko. That's all I'm saying. That's how you sell that team. That is your star player if you draft Tarasenko. But again, that was in the past. Let's go Burakovsky.
Burakovsky's in. I personally backtracks to a team like.
You broke up there. What team?
New Jersey, especially if good.
If Gaudreau, yeah. Here's a fun one. David Perron. He's played with 5 teams. He's only ever signed contracts with the St. Louis Blues.
Lois.
You think he ends up back there?
I think he goes back.
All right. 2 more names. Ilya Mikheyev. He's going to get a good deal. Someone's going to pay him. It's not going to be Toronto.
I think. How do you like San Jose?
I think Detroit could be a good fit. I think Detroit could be a landing spot for him. Or depending on what Pittsburgh does with Raquel. I don't know. Pittsburgh could have been a good spot if they didn't make that Raquel signing, which not a fan of that one. 6 years, $30 million.
Winger that's prone to futility.
Last one we'll do for this one. And it's a name that's kind of he's not really the best player on the market, but he's still on the market. Actually, and he is one of the more underrated. He didn't get a qualifying offer. Another sign of the blow up in Chicago. Dominic Kubalik.
Man. This is another player.
You weren't expecting to be on the market.
How about this?
How about this? He froze.
New York Islanders could take a shot at him.
I could see that. I could see Buffalo taking a shot at Kubalik if Buffalo doesn't get Milano. I still my mind is still Sabres and Milano. It just makes too much sense to where it probably won't happen. I could see Columbus taking a shot at him too. Yarmo's going to have to do some work. Yarmo's got a lot of work to do in Columbus to get that team back, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I could also see Nashville trying to grab even a Palat, depending on what they can do. I could see Nashville doing something. Who knows?
They still have room. It all depends on him. And look, the other thing too is bring a GM at some point, and that's there'll probably be a coach being groomed. If you think Hines is staying for more than I see his long there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. There's a lot of chaos to unfold.
Oof.
And you'll be able to get full coverage of all the chaos at fullpresshockey.com all day tomorrow. Free agency starts at noon Eastern time. There will be signings coming out the minute it happens because magically players can talk and negotiate with teams and their agents in the span of 30 seconds, if not less. Somehow, I don't know how it gets done. You can get full coverage of everything at fullpresshockey.com and on the social medias, Facebook and Twitter /FullPressNHL. And we might go live tomorrow. We're still trying to figure that out. You can find Chris at Chris Wassel DFS. You can find me at Mike Strom Media. Make sure you're checking out fullpressbets.com and Full Press Bets on social media. Until next time, we will see you. The offseason is in full swing, but because of how late it starts, there's development camps already underway, and preseason is 2 months away. FBI.